could follow a pretty strict 20-20-20 here.
I think so.
Welcome, everyone, to this titular episode of Aaron and Justin Talk Sequels. I'm Justin.
I'm Aaron. Welcome.
And on this early Sunday morning record, we are talking about Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again, a listener request.
A listener request, but I feel like we would have gotten to this on our own eventually.
I don't think we would have ever gotten to this.
I don't either.
And it's just because I don't watch a lot of musicals anymore. Watching these, I reflected on, I watched a lot when I was younger.
You had a bad experience?
I've seen the standards, like Seven Brides for Seven Brothers and Fiddler on the Roof.
West Side Story?
I've never seen West Side Story. These are all movies that my mom made me watch.
Grease?
Seen the Grease just once, all the way through. But yeah, this is a bit of a different beast. And do you know anything about the play that this movie is based on?
I knew there was a play, and it was an enormous success ever since like the year 2000, something like that, maybe late 90s.
Oh, it was a 1999 musical. Okay. So they based it on the music of ABBA.
Yep.
How often do plays just make whole up musicals for bands?
Sometimes they do, but it may have been more because of this movie or because of this play, this idea that this woman had. I think her name was Katharina Johnson, but she met the guys, the two dudes in ABBA who wrote all the hits. I mean, they were like a freaking pop hit machine back in the late 70s, early 80s. I mean, crazy how successful they were. I would say ABBA. I'm not really the ABBA guy. Like that strong ABBA A. I always do the soft A.
Huge band.
Yeah, huge band. So I guess she just came to him and said like, hey, I think your songs would be cool if we put it to a musical. And then it took years to develop it. But it was such an enormous success that it's now like they made like a Bob Dylan one, they made a Queen one, Billy Joel. I mean, there's been a lot of them, but I think it may have been around this time. It was kind of like maybe a late 90s thing. I'm not too up on Broadway in the plays, so I could be totally off, and this maybe happened earlier, but I feel like it was a late 90s thing where they were starting to grab all these famous musicians and their songs and making plays out of them.
Did you know that ABBA wrote most of the songs in this play for the play? Like the actual song Mamma Mia didn't exist before the play.
It's just not true. No, but I think that is the way a lot of people feel, is that everything, the newer generations are just going to think that there was never a band called ABBA and there was just this play and this is where all this music came from. And I mean, you got to admit the music fits pretty well to what's happening, so it could confuse you.
Had you ever seen these before?
No.
I had also never seen these before. How are you walking out of watching both of them? Did you watch them both together?
I watched the sequel last night and the other one maybe like 2 days ago.
I watched the first one last night and the sequel this morning at about 4 in the morning.
What is a 4 in the morning Mamma Mia viewing like?
My neighbors were probably pissed.
Yeah, because you were blasting it, I'm sure.
It was delightful.
Yeah.
I'm going to say it now. I really like these movies.
Yeah.
This is a really strong sequel effort.
Yes. Thank you. I was right there with you.
I want to try to do the plot of the first movie because I really like saying the plot out loud.
Let's do a quick 20 minutes on the plot of 2008's Mamma Mia.
So this girl is getting married and she wants to meet her dad before she gets married. She finds her mom's diary and learns that within about a 2-week span, she banged 3 different guys. Any of them could be her father. So she invites them all to the wedding in secret. They live in a beautiful island in Greece, by the way. And all these men come because they were so enamored, they dropped what they were doing, even all these years later.
They thought that the mom, Donna, was the one that wrote them. Because Sophie, the daughter, made it sound like Donna was the one inviting them. So that's why it was a little more...
But it's still somebody they hadn't seen in 20 years. And it's like, wow.
But they had magical nights.
Yes.
If you're not tied down, you might show up too. And you get a vacation in Greece. Why not?
And the mom played by Meryl Streep, has all of her friends come for her daughter's wedding, and she's got two best friends. This cast is stacked. I gotta pause in the middle of this plot. Is there anybody in this movie that wasn't pretty damn famous to begin with? Other than this might be the daughter played by, I can't say her name
Amanda
properly.
Seyfried.
Seyfried?
Yeah. I mean, possibly Seyfried, but I just say Seyfried.
Yeah, I couldn't get a hang of it. Like, she's gone on to do tons and tons of stuff.
Yeah, she's pretty big, and I really don't know how much there was before this because she's pretty young.
There was stuff like she was on a couple things that were notable. She was in Mean Girls.
Oh, yeah, well that'll do it.
She was on Veronica Mars. Yeah, and a bunch of random independent movies. I haven't seen Jennifer's Body. Jennifer's Body is on Hulu all the time now.
Yeah, that Diablo Cody one, right?
I don't.
She wrote it because she wrote Juno.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I know it's
I just
becoming
know
a
she
TV
did.
show that people liked it so much. Like, just all sorts of stuff.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe it's more of a cult film now.
Anyway, all these guys show up with the mom not expecting them. Like, is it basically a Parent Trap? Like, kind of a
pretty
weird.
much.
Yeah. And these guys all get reintroduced to the mom. The mom freaks out. What am I missing? She's marrying the preacher.
The preacher? Oh, yeah right. I kept thinking of him as Howard Stark from the MCU. I wasn't even thinking about his preacher role. I didn't watch Preacher, so yeah. Dominic Cooper. Yeah, everybody's so young in this movie.
Yeah,
I think that's about it. Yeah, I mean, and
bunch
they
of drama.
don't make you wait for her to meet the possible fathers. Meryl Streep, like, she sees them almost immediately once they're there, so it kind of gets things moving, and really the plot is moved forward by the songs. There's a lot of songs. It's musical.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of a little bit of a fun little emotional farce on this island in Greece, and that's pretty much it.
And the way that everything turns out, so Pierce Brosnan always loved the mom, and he was always filled with regret. Those two hook up, and all the guys' names.
Stellan Skarsgård, I want to say. Skarsgård.
Yeah, Skarsgård.
I think the K is silent.
Skarsgård.
I think it's Sarsgaard, but
Sarsgaard.
Again, I don't know.
But Stellan,
he
figures out that him and the mom were actually related, and that's why it's okay that they don't hook up. And he hooks up with one of her friends.
They're not related.
Yes.
No, I don't think so. I think he had an aunt.
That was the insinuation, that the aunt was the old lady that gave her the house.
Yes, but that's not her relation.
No, like, oh yeah. Yeah,
she was just like a friend.
So they made it okay that he didn't hook up with her because he hooked up with her best friend.
Yes.
Okay.
It's like for Pierce Brosnan, it was more of a he fell in love with her over that week or a couple days or however long they were together. But the other guys, it was more of a one-night stand kind of thing. They really liked her. And then Colin Firth's character, he turns out to be gay. So it was like, she meant a lot to him because it was his first female sexual experience. But beyond that, he wasn't looking for anything.
God, I really thought the insinuation was that
would be funny, but no.
Because when they figured that out, there was all these looks at each other like, oh my God. And
I don't remember. Yeah, I don't remember seeing that.
But the daughter, through the movie, the point is that she finds these guys because she was trying to find her dad because she felt like she was missing a piece of herself.
Yeah, as
and
one does.
She finds these guys, and she realizes that it wasn't her dad that she was looking for as an idol. It was her mom that she was looking for as the idol. Like, that's who she looked up to, and that she didn't need these guys to be a complete person.
Yeah, and we didn't really need this movie to explain that, but they did it anyway.
They did it anyway, and I loved it. I loved it.
Yeah, it was good. It's a good film. And so Sam, who's Pierce Brosnan's character, ends up with Donna, Meryl Streep, at the end of the movie. And they get married instead of Sophie and Sky, her fiance, because there was another kind of subplot where Meryl Streep she's a strong woman on her own. She doesn't really need a man to take care of her or to run the business, even though she secretly, I guess, wants to have a relationship and isn't very good at running the business. So it works out for her. But the subplot is that she thinks Sophie's too young to get married. She's only 20. Why is she getting married? They should go out and experience the world. So that's what they end up realizing, is that they shouldn't get married, her and Sky. And then Pierce Brosnan's like, hey, let's not waste a good wedding. So him and Meryl get married, and I guess everything works out.
Yeah, and like Donna's job is she runs kind of a little resort.
Yeah, she has a villa, but she turned it into like a bed and breakfast-y, hotel-y kind of thing.
Yeah, and they don't get a lot of tourists.
No.
And the daughter and the boyfriend are working out a marketing scheme to build tourism on the island when we leave them.
Yes.
And
so the big question was, who's the father? And they all realize that they don't want to know. So they're all her dads, all three of them.
now, was there any speculation about who the dad ever really was? I didn't even ask because I was so happy with the ending of the movie.
No, I think that was it. Like they don't know, and you're not supposed to know.
Well, I'm Googling it to discover it for the first time.
Who do you think it is?
Young Bill and young Donna have undeniable sexual chemistry. That means he's the father. That's stupid. Who is Sophie's? Let's see if Decider knows. No, nobody knows for sure. I'm gonna surmise. A lot of people think it's Bill.
Really?
All three of those guys are her dad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's all that matters.
So you liked the movie?
Yeah, like musicals are just a weird genre on their own. They don't have to follow. They follow such a loose story structure that you forgive a lot.
Totally.
So it's really not. It's hard to criticize musicals for anything other than the musical elements in the way they construct the story, because there's so much you can forgive.
You gotta like the music. It's gotta work. And I think that is the power of this mix of this first movie, is that they have excellent songs to work from that just so happen to be pop hits, pop classics that translate well to telling a story behind them. So that's the power of ABBA, and that they were able to craft such long-lasting pop music that works as a really good play. I think I was happy with the movie because it reminded me of Blues Brothers, and that they didn't go too far out on their choreography or musical numbers. They kind of kept it street level, and they used what was already around them. And I kind of like that. It had a homemade feel to it. They didn't get too wild.
I feel like this movie captures a lot of the classical elements of older plays or older musicals. So we've got this very modern take using modern bands, but we also have a lot of the same ideas as like Fiddler or Seven Wives for Seven Brothers. Like, you forgive a lot of stuff because a lot of stuff in this story is complete like nonsense, like fairy tale kind of stuff.
Other things I had to forgive, because this is the negative part of what I didn't like about the movie, is that, I mean, there's this thing when they make a, for lack of a better term, chick flick, which this very much is, they just go over the top in the way the women are introduced and see each other, and the screaming and the cackling. No woman ever, they're friends, they don't have a chant. They don't have a musical chant that they all yell out together. I guarantee it. And my wife backed me up on that. She was like, no, like, yeah, friends, we laugh a lot. She goes, but we don't like see each other and go, oh, the Donnas, da, 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 da. And it's too much. It's cringeworthy. That's what musicals do a lot. And that's why it kind of really gets to me. The second part of cringeworthy is anytime Pierce Brosnan was singing. Because that is not, I'm happy he was game for it, but that is not his wheelhouse.
Yeah, I don't watch a lot of musicals. I'm not a huge music guy, but when I do it, like watching this movie, I go all in. So yeah, I loved the screaming. I loved the nonsensical dancing because it's just part of the show, baby. That's all it was.
That's good. That's fine.
I don't think I have any other final thoughts other than I'm amused on how they positioned the three men in their three different roles, and that they had Stellan be like the bad boy.
Yeah, isn't that funny?
Yeah.
I mean, it was more or less just because he was the outsider. He was the one that he lived on the seas, didn't want to really be part of anything. But you're right, they all did show up, and that is a little out of character maybe for him. Yeah. But Meryl Streep was good. I mean, she did a good job.
Yeah, Meryl, I never give enough credit. She's amazing. She has such range.
Yeah, so that's 2008's Mamma Mia.
Yeah.
And that told the story. That was a huge hit too, right?
Oh, baby. $52 million budget that had to be almost entirely salaries.
Yeah, probably. Right.
And it made I could see a lot of these actors looking for the back end though. And then they made 600 million box office.
Yeah, it's probably it made them all not have to work again.
Yeah. And that's why we of course got a follow-up.
But 10 years later though. Yeah, 10.
Called Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again.
Which is a lyric in the song Mamma Mia. Here we go.
No.
Yes.
So
it's
like
the second thing they say. They go, Mamma Mia. Here
will
we
it be
go
the third
again.
thing they say? When
Yeah,
they make
maybe.
the sequel?
Maybe they'll do another one.
What's the next line?
I don't know.
Googling
I think
it.
they sing Mamma Mia again. They go, Mamma Mia, here we go again. Something, something,
Mia,
something, 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 something.
Here we go again. When I Kissed the Teacher?
That's a different song. I do like ABBA, and I like those songs, but I don't know too much about them, and I'm not a huge
I don't know.
listener all the time. But I do like Waterloo. I always love that song.
That's the one I was humming the most.
Yeah.
Waterloo.
Yeah. And what a weird, did you read I read the lyrics for the first time for that. Like, it's all about Napoleon giving up at Waterloo. It's a very odd subject matter for a song, but they use it as in, this relationship is my Waterloo. Like, I surrender to it. Napoleon's defeat was at Waterloo, so their romantic defeat is this relationship I'm in. It is my Waterloo, and I surrender to you. Yeah. It's a very interesting idea. I don't know how those guys came up with it, but they were like, hey, Waterloo. Actually, I know how they came up with it, because if you sing it to yourself, I felt I was singing Build Me Up Buttercup, that song. Why do you build me up, Buttercup? It just has the Waterloo, couldn't escape if you wanted to. Yeah, I knew that they reworked that. I'm onto them.
Nice.
Yeah, we're singing now.
The next lyric was just kind of nonsense.
Oh.
I don't think they could continue the trend.
What is it?
It's Mamma Mia, Here I Go Again.
Here I go again.
My, how can I resist you?
Yeah.
So
Mamma
it could
Mia.
be Mamma
My,
Mia,
how can I resist you?
Yeah.
How could we resist you?
And
maybe that's what they're saying to their fans. You know you're going to come see the third movie. We're making it anyway. Now guess who's dead?
Now, guess who's dead? Because what happened, Meryl Streep, who's in this movie, she died.
Yeah, she died.
Which casts a sad pall. What's the word?
Sure.
A sad cloud over the movie that I wasn't expecting to have. Like, I knew nothing even about what the sequel was about going
I didn't
in.
either. Well, I knew that it was they went the Godfather 2 route.
Yes.
Yeah. And that you got to see the continuation of the story, and yet you got to see the past where Donna met all these men. We saw her as a young girl.
Okay, that's a great place to start. They pulled a Godfather 2.
Yeah.
Can you think of any other sequels that pulled a Godfather 2? And
I
if
can't
you
off the top of my head.
But I don't know if I've ever seen one pull it off so successfully.
Yeah. I think
Like-
casting is yet again key, because watching Lily James in this role is what made the movie for me. Like, she's great at it, and she's just like, you want to watch her.
Yeah, they cast younger versions of pretty much every member of the original cast from the first movie, and they nail these things.
Yeah. Isn't that fun?
They
I'm
are
a sucker for
forgivable.
these kind of movies where I am a sucker for flashback movies, and I've even made 2 of them myself, where you have a cast and then you go back in time and you need younger versions of them. But yeah, I was surprised. Like, even the guy, the kid that played the young Colin Firth, for instance, I thought the Pierce Brosnan one was a little off. I don't know.
I feel like I liked the Pierce Brosnan one and didn't like the Colin Firth one as much.
Well, we know Pierce Brosnan because he was Remington Steele, because he was James Bond. Like, we've seen him as a younger man, so I know what he should look like, and that's not what he looks like. So maybe that's just my hang-up. But I thought the Stellan Skarsgård, like, he was a good-looking guy when he was younger. What do you know?
Yeah, it makes me... yeah, it made me think, like, is this another Skarsgård, like somebody's kid?
Yeah.
And it doesn't look like it.
No, probably not.
No. So yeah, we have 2 narratives going on. We have young Donna trying to figure out who she's going to be after, was this high school or college? I think it was high school, but it could have been college.
probably high school, just because they want to make her as young as appropriate to have a baby at that age.
Yeah.
And also be a young mom when Sophie's older. I don't know, whatever, doesn't matter. Who cares?
And then we are also continuing the story of Sophie as her and everybody else deal with the loss of Donna, and her working to continue Donna's dream of opening a great resort.
Yeah, and now, but in Mamma Mia, it kind of ended saying that her and Sky were going to go off and see the world. And they left on the boat and everything because Donna wanted more for her than to be strapped to this villa in this middle of nowhere Greek island. But we enter this movie realizing that her mom died, so now she has to take over her dream and make it work.
Yeah,
so it was a little weird.
They very potentially, this could have been 3 years later. I don't think they really say.
Well, it's certainly 10 years after the first movie. I think that's accurate, but it's a year after their mom died.
Yeah.
Is what they said.
And so we don't know at what point they were pulled back to the island.
Right.
Her grieving has been to pick up her mom's dream and honor her. And people are upset with her that she's not out living her full life.
Right. It sounds like it's fairly, she died the year before, so it's fairly recent where Sophie came back to try to get the place going again, and they're having a grand reopening, and that's why she's inviting the dads again. But Sam's already there because he was married to Donna, so he lives there. And Sky, her now husband, it sounds like they must have got married after they decided not to get married in the first movie. He's in New York. Were they in New York and then she came back to the island?
No,
or did he go to New York to learn more about the business so he could make the resort successful?
That's what it was.
Okay.
And now I don't know if they were married. Did you hear that in the movie?
I just assumed they were, but then I forgot that they decided not to get married in the first movie. So I was like, oh, I guess they might have got married at some point. But no, maybe not. Maybe they weren't.
It was one of those, our relationship is so strong it could sustain a separation.
Well, that's what they can do now in a third movie, is they can have them actually get married.
That's true.
Hey, ABBA put out a number of albums. They have more songs.
That would be a nice full circle. Again, the structure, the stories are pretty simple. The grand opening gets messed up
from the weather.
From the weather, none of the
all
guests
of her work
can
into
come.
it. Everything's destroyed. Nobody can get there. Yeah,
and so the dads, who on their own realize that what are they doing? They should be there for their daughter. They converge back. They see a bunch of locals and invite them over there. They were having $1 million guests at this resort. I feel like the dads are paying the bills for these locals that they invited because they would be wiping out their food supplies. I know I'm thinking too much into it, but that's where it bent the logic a little for me.
Yeah.
Even in a musical.
See, I was going to go with your musical cop-out in that it kind of, you don't really worry about it. It just works.
And it does. It does just work. And just right there was the only time it pulled me out.
So that's the main story where Sophie's trying to become her mom and make all this work and learning and dealing with her death and learning the struggle. And then the other story is, but equally as important, is Donna as a young woman finding herself and finding her journey end at that island where she decides to stay. And that's a romp. That's fun. She meets the young Harry and they have a magical night together. But it's really because he just was like, I really want to have sex and I never have. We're good friends now over a night. Can we just help each other out? And she's like, sure. So I thought that was kind of funny. Yep. And they all have good musical numbers, of course. And then she meets. See, this is what I liked about that they didn't. I thought, okay, she's just gonna go. She's gonna bang each guy one at a time, and that's how we get there. But no, she meets Bill, Stellan Skarsgård, younger version, who's a sailor. But they don't sleep together. She then goes to the island and meets Sam, Pierce Brosnan's young self, and then they have a thing, but then she realizes he's been untruthful with her and that he has a fiance, so that ends, and then she comes back to meet Bill. Basically, he shows up right when she needs some comfort, and then they have sex. So I kind of liked how they made you wait a little bit longer for that to happen. Mm-hmm. And it ends, so it ends with her pregnant, and then she's on the island where she decides to stay forever. Her friends come. I think it's funny that everybody, at least with the ladies, they have the same haircut, so you know that they're the younger versions. And they have the same. Nobody has the same haircut when they're young and old, but for the purposes of the movie, you want immediately to know that is the younger version. So you got to have the same haircut.
And I think that's especially true if you're thinking of an 18-year-old woman and a 60-year-old woman.
Sure.
I mean, I was thinking about my hair,
Yeah.
and my hair is probably pretty close to when
Yeah.
I was 18 outside
probably
of
is, yeah.
dye jobs. But, yeah. I feel like women often go with a shorter cut the older they get.
As the older they get, yeah. The long hair on older women, it just doesn't work for a lot of women. So except for Meryl Streep.
I mean, I think she pulls that off because of the overalls. Oh, and so like everybody is back for this sequel, but obviously some people had tighter time constraints than others.
See, I don't know about that. This is
think?
Once we wrapped up talking about the movie, I wanted to get into like what we liked about it and what we didn't like about it. The very ending, Sophie learns that she's pregnant, so she is following in her mother's steps, and that's pretty much it, right? I mean, it ends on this another joyous musical number. Everybody's back together. The hotel will be fine, I guess. Right? Am I missing anything?
Yeah, no, that was pretty much it. Like just another happy, joyous ending where you started the movie with sorrow, but by the end, you could feel the sorrow being washed away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what'd you like about the movie?
I liked that, as a guy that doesn't really like musicals, I liked that it was a little more scripted than the first one.
Mm-hmm.
There was a little more plot running through the thing.
I think the big thing is that it's not beholden to the play. That is what makes it a superior movie, in my opinion, is that they could do their own story. Because the first movie does feel like you're watching a filmed play in a lot of ways. And that works, but sometimes it doesn't help it out. But then you have the sequel that's just able to tell its own story and fit the music in any way it wants. And I think that's why it makes it a better story.
Yeah, like I can't always see it, but like in action films, how there's the climax and then the epilogue.
Mm-hmm.
This movie, I kind of saw that in there. Like when they did Mamma Mia towards the end, that was like the climax of the movie.
Yeah.
And everything else was kind of like the wind down, which I thought was cool. And, you know, there's not a lot of movies where you get Cher in your wind down.
Yeah, the Cher thing, of course. We didn't talk about that.
Yeah, so they allude to a grandmother throughout this movie.
Yep.
And then at the very end of the movie, Cher shows up as her grandmother, and she's good.
Yeah, that was the one part that was extraneous, that was very pointless, I felt, because it was just stunt casting. And the older this movie gets, the less people are going to really know or care who Cher is. So when they show her, it's really for that generation that knows Cher. So that's why the movie makes sense. And also, when you see, did you know who Andy Garcia's brother was? When he said, oh, here's my brother. It's the guy from the Dos Equis commercial who's the most interesting man in the world.
That's who I thought it was.
Exactly. Who the hell's going to know that reference in 10 years? So
Right.
That's what Cher felt like to me. It was just stunt casting.
Cher
But
is a
she did do an
famous-
admirable job.
Yeah, she did good.
But the only reason her character was in there because ABBA has a song called Fernando. And the only reason Andy Garcia's in there is because ABBA has a song called Fernando.
Yeah.
So they just put this thing together where there's Fernando and then they knew it so she could sing the song at the end. That's why it just felt to me, it didn't really move the plot forward at all. It didn't really matter at all. But
And that's
it didn't
why they
kill it
left
for
it.
me, but it was
Yeah, that's
fine.
why they left it after the climax.
Yeah,
Because
there
there's
you
just
go.
a little fun bonus add-on.
Yeah, but they could have chopped it off.
Oh, they could have totally chopped it.
I just didn't think it was too necessary.
I don't think you're giving Cher enough credit.
She's fine. She's fine.
Dynamite
But I also
actress
feel like
back when she tried.
Yes. Well, she doesn't want to move her face too much because I think she would show wrinkles.
I
and
don't
that's
think
what
her
I
face
think
can
is
move.
maybe not, but I think that to me is it's a vanity thing for her and that she's older and she doesn't want to appear older
Yeah, like
for all
it
her
looks like
efforts.
she
But it
has
obstructs
had a
her
lot
acting.
of work done.
I think
Yes.
she can belt it out, and I think she can have those facial. I don't think that plastic surgery has stopped her from having expressions. I think she is consciously not emoting too much because it makes her look older. That's where I'm at.
Interesting.
And I think that's a shame because she is a good actress.
It says in the internets that she got to pick who her lover was going to be,
Oh, really?
and that's how Andy Garcia got chosen for the
That's
project.
pretty funny. Yeah,
I
so
don't
he
know if
plays
that's
the
true.
hotel manager.
Yes.
And he has a nothing role. You knew it was going to matter to something, and that's what it came to. That's why I was like, whatever, you know.
There were
not
those
too big
two
of a deal.
strands hanging out the entire movie. The
The
grandma.
worst
and-
thing, though, that happened in the whole movie, do you know what
Yeah.
that is? Stellan Skarsgård's fat suit. What the hell was with that?
That was a different choice?
It was dumb. They should have just said, this is a trope. This happens in movies where they say, Bill Anderson, come up for your award. Everybody claps. Bill Anderson! And he never shows up. And then they just cut to him in his car hauling ass away from the place. Like, I got to get to my daughter's grand reopening. That's all they had to do. Why did they have to? Like, he sat for like 4 to 6 hours in a makeup chair. He had to get up at 3 a.m. to get all that fat suit makeup done, get to set, to shoot this thing. It was just, I'm like, what? It was very pointless. That's where I'm at with that. But that was it. If that's the worst parts of the movie, then that didn't kill the movie for me.
So just so we're clear for the audience, if you haven't seen the movie yet, the dad played by Stellan Skarsgård, he couldn't come because he had to get an award for being the best Swede of all time, I think
guess
it was.
so, or the best Salian Swede.
Which is very funny. But to get out of it, he has a twin brother that's chubbier than him, and
Way
he had
chubbier.
him go to and accept the award.
Yeah, and pretend to be him. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we're introduced thinking that Skarsgård has put on a lot of weight in the intervening years between the movies. But, oh, shocker, he didn't actually get fat. It's okay, world.
So here's why I really like the movie, and I feel like it works, is because it subverts your expectations very well. Because the movie starts with her dead, and Sophie's marriage or relationship with Sky is on the rocks. They were shitting on the first movie. Within like the first 10 minutes of the sequel, I was so prepared to hate this movie. I was like, what are you doing? You don't ruin the happy ending of the first movie in your sequel. That is one of the biggest rules about making a successful sequel, is that you don't destroy the happy ending of the first movie. And this is exactly what it did. But it was stealth about it. It wanted you to think that's what it was doing. So it turns out that they were saving Meryl Streep for this very emotional climax at the end, and I thought it worked. Like, you felt that she should have been in the movie, and there was a bad choice to make it without her. And then once you see her at the end come back, I was like, oh, well, that's why they did it. It totally worked.
It totally worked.
Yeah, and the Sky and Sophie thing, it allowed them to have a reunion, and now they're fine. And then you thought, like, none of the dads, like, their schedules weren't going to make it to make this movie, so they opted out as well, and they still went ahead and made the movie. And then they even brought them back. Like, you didn't expect all them. Like, it was a choice in making the movie to keep them all on the outs and bring them back when necessary. And that's what surprised me about the movie. It felt more like they were hampered by this decision and they couldn't get everybody, but they actually did it on purpose, is what it felt like to me. I was really surprised that this all worked, and that's why I ended up coming away really liking the movie.
It just works. This is a great sequel.
Like, I don't know if it would survive on its own as a film, because there would be a lot of questions like, well, what was the purpose of meeting all those dudes? What happened to them? How did they all reconvene later on? So you do need the first movie to explain. The first movie did all the heavy lifting with bringing the fathers back into their lives that the second movie didn't have to do. You just knew it because you saw the first movie. But it was just I thought it was a better made and a more enjoyable, and Lily James as the lead was like fun to watch.
Very much so.
Yeah.
That, I can live with that. Yeah. You make a lot of good points there.
Well, I thought about it overnight. And Meryl Streep shows up at the end because she's a ghost.
Which is crazy, because you don't expect her to try and attack Sophie and eat her. Yeah. But that's the way they went with it.
I didn't think it would work, but
yeah,
it did.
And so ending on the blood coming out of Sophie's neck in a freeze frame, like, totally ridiculous. Builds suspense for the third one.
Yeah, and then Cher had a song at the end after all that. It was very weird.
Yeah, it went straight to a cut of Cher
just
singing,
covered in blood,
dressed as David Bowie.
Yes.
What a weird movie, but yeah, I loved it.
Weird movie. It's so weird to see all those musicals are there to allow actors to act ridiculous, like Pierce Brosnan dancing while he was walking up the mountain, doing his horrible singing.
There was a moment, I don't know if it was in the first movie or the second movie, where I broke from reality back to reality. It was where Meryl Streep was driving the car, and she was just wildly swinging her arms around.
Sophie was doing the same thing.
Yeah, and it's just like they would be all over that damn road if that was a real.
I always say the same thing, like, tone it down. you just do a little bit here and there.
Come on, you're
You don't have
Meryl
to go wild.
Streep. What are you doing?
Oh gosh, there's yeah. Anything else going on with these? I mean, like her friends, they all hook up with
Yeah.
somebody. One of them hooks up with Bill, so
Yeah, she hooks back up with Bill after,
and
it
then she
didn't
hooks
work
back
out.
up with him. Yeah,
Yeah, and then the other one found the most interesting man in the world.
yeah. Now I never really saw Mean Girls. I wasn't too familiar with Amanda Seyfried. I just would always see her in these roles that looked like she just wasn't old enough to play. So it was I thought it was a little weird, like that they were sexualizing this young girl all the time in all these movies that I would see her in. But then I saw her in the new Twin Peaks season. She plays a role in the Twin Peaks: The Return.
Oh, really?
And she's great in it. And then I liked her after that. So then seeing her in Mamma Mia, I thought that she was used appropriately for her age. And then
yeah.
seeing her 10 years later, I'm like, she grew up in the role and it worked.
Very solid, and I had 10 years later, you can't tell. It's
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah, she's like our age.
Yeah, 72.
Budget of 75 million, made 395 million, so it made less, but it was still a huge hit. They are reportedly in pre-production for a Mamma Mia Part 3.
Are you serious? Really?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
It was
How
slowed down by-
excited did I just sound right then? Really? Are you serious?
we get to
Can't wait.
so it might
Oh,
happen
God.
eventually. Who knows? COVID. That's another thing that COVID just delayed
COVID, right.
to forever.
That thing.
I don't know who. Oh, this was written and directed by an O.I. Parker,
I think it's Ole Parker, isn't it?
born
O.L.
Oliver Parker. So yeah, I'd guess
I
old.
think it's Ole. He's
Yeah.
married to Thandia Newton.
I was just gonna say. I thought you were gonna say Thanos.
Thanos, yeah. Or
Tandy?
Thandy? I don't know how to
Tandy.
say her name. Why do people have these names? Tandy, is that it? Maybe it's
Okay,
Tandy.
I might-
don't know. These,
I
these
might have
people and
always-
their names. It's bizarre. Nobody knows how to say anything.
Yeah, I could be
Yeah,
wrong.
I know her. She's in Westworld and various other things.
All right, so that was us covering Mamma Mia and Mamma Mia. Here we go again, and it was good. I liked it. You should watch these, and you might like them.
If there's anything you want to get off your chest.
Well, I do have something that I really need to talk about.
Yeah,
and,
go for it, please.
we're starting another sub podcast for it. Chips, the flavor tasting podcast where we talk about our favorite chips. And this is a very special episode. Aaron knows this. I was finally able to pick up the 3 best limited edition Lays they've done so far, which was to take the flavor of chips they already have and put them on a standard potato chips. So we have Cheetos chips, Doritos, the blue bag chips, Cool Ranch, that's what it is. And we have Funyuns chips. Which one do you think I was the most excited about, Aaron?
I think the
going
Funyuns
into it.
is what you were most excited. Oh, going into it.
Yeah.
I have no idea. But coming out of it, I'm having a feeling that you were shocked
saw the
at the
tweet.
quality of the Funyun.
The Cheetos chips were the one I was looking most forward to because I'm a big fan of the Cheeto. It's a great snack and has the potential to be transferred. But they didn't nail the flavor, and so it just ended up tasting like a cheesy chip, which they have so many of those.
I would think that the Cheeto was more than just the cheese. It's the whatever a Cheeto is made out of, that is part of the taste as well. Maybe that's why they're not able to transfer it.
Yep, that's what my girlfriend said, and I agree. The Doritos Cool Ranch,
Yeah.
perfect
Wow.
recreation of the flavor. Just
I didn't know
on
you
a
were
chip.
such a chip magnet or
Like-
magnate. I think that's the word I'm looking for. Not magnet.
I really like these chips just because they're capitalism run amok. Like, just we will make whatever we can think of to sell something.
True.
And they're just fun, and I really want to see how the flavors would work.
Like, why would they do this? Was it somebody's idea? I feel like it's the consumer somehow made this happen, even though they didn't really need or want this.
Oh, God, the VP of marketing probably got a bonus at that meeting. Like, we should put Funyuns in chips.
Right.
Like, it was just one of those guys.
This goes back to when I was a kid. I was like conscious of action figures we had. Like, I even thought of this when I was like 8 years old, like buying my parents buying me a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, because they would just like next year they would have, it would be the same turtle, but they would just like have him as a dinosaur, right? or they would just like have him as a horror monster from the Universal Monsters cast or something like that. You just repackage the same thing and we'll buy it again.
That is so true to this day with toys. Are you familiar with the PJ Masks?
Yes.
The PJ Masks seem to change their uniform every season.
Like on the show.
Yeah. Like the show changes their uniform. And then
like
all
Power
of a sudden
Rangers. Remember Power Rangers?
Yes.
Same thing. Every season was a whole new cast, and they only did that to sell toys. I know it. I never bought a Power Ranger, though.
I don't think I did either.
Yeah, those are weird. Those are weird toys. Like, those weren't cool toys. I did like the show secretly.
Yeah, we all did the original show.
But we couldn't admit it. But we were too old. We were a little too old to admit how much we loved it. That was the problem with it. We had to pretend like, did you see Power Rangers last night? Like it was stupid. But we'd talk about it.
Yes, that's what gave it away. The
it
people that would make fun of it knew details of the episode. But anyway, Dorito chips.
God damn it. I thought we were done with this.
Good, but a Dorito is too much like a chip, and so like it's almost, it doesn't quite work.
Is a Dorito more like a chip or a tortilla chip?
Well, I mean, that's what I mean. Like
it wants to be a tortilla chip, but it's not really
in
a
the
tortilla
same
chip.
realm.
It is,
but the Funyuns,
the crunchiness of Doritos makes you feel like it's a tortilla chip, but it's not a tortilla chip.
That's what I think. Is it?
I don't know.
It's a corn chip.
It's a Dorito. It's its own.
It's like KFC chicken. Thing. Like it's not quite a real tortilla.
Has anyone ever made chicken that tasted like Kentucky Fried Chicken? No, that doesn't happen. You can't do that at your home. No matter how hard you try, you will never reproduce Kentucky Fried Chicken. That's why it has its own taste.
Before we wrap up Funyuns, did you see?
I think it was called Chips. This is your new podcast here.
Yes,
which I actually really like. We should just change the name of our movies podcast. Chips. People tune in to hear about sequels.
Podcast about movie, yeah.
And we eat chips, so you would hear us actively crunching on chips the whole time.
Oh, I think I left them at my girlfriend's house.
And we could get like sponsorship. You could add Funyuns. So explain to me again, this is Lay's potato chips with those flavors.
Right. And they're all owned by the same corporation, obviously.
Sure.
But no, real quick. Do you see it's really going around the internet that if you mix Coke and Sprite together, it tastes just like ginger ale? I've just seen TikToks being like, wow, it really tastes like that. So I need to try that because up here in Michigan, we have a ginger ale pop called Verner's, which is the best ginger ale, and all other ginger ales suck.
You know what, though? I think it is the best, but I can't drink it. It's too sugary. Way too sugary. So if I do have ginger ale, I usually go with Canada Dry because it's not as sweet. But maybe I'm wrong, because if you're going to drink ginger ale, maybe you should just go all in and go for the sugar. But I just think it's too much.
You know, that's what this show's about, is really finding those granular details in the foods we eat. But yeah, to finish up the segment, the
you
Funyuns
had no
chips,
idea where you were going with that. Hard cut.
The Funyuns chips did something magical. They perfectly recreated the flavor of Funyuns on a chip, but it also changed the medium so much that it really is rightfully its own unique product. They were onion chips, and they captured going back to the Cheetos, how the material is part of the flavor. The Funyuns chips almost capture that crunch of biting into a Funyun and having that flavor from the material all together. Like, oh, it's dynamite.
So is it better to buy the Lay's version of it or just the actual thing?
Well, I mean,
I
think a lot of people don't buy Funyuns just because of the weird shape, you know?
Oh, there you go. It was always off-putting to people. Reminds them of something sexual, perhaps. So now they can crunch without thinking about past traumas and other things that happened to them in their childhood.
Try Funyun chips. They won't remind you of your past traumas.
They're safe. They're safe now. Anyway, I don't like Funyuns. I never have. But it does occur to me that somebody higher up in the chip world was like, what about onion? Let's put that on a chip. People don't even know that they like it, but they'll like it. And he was right. Or she was right.
Yeah.
Or the computer was right.
the computer that secretly runs the
Yeah.
mega corporation.
There's a HAL.
that owns-
There's a HAL 9000 that's existed since the mid 20th century that has
It's actually
and out came a little piece of paper and it said onions plus pork rinds. And they were like, there you go.
in reality, they really built HAL for 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Yeah.
And then when they tried to shut it off when the production was over, it wouldn't allow it.
Oh my god.
And they couldn't figure out what to do with this thing. And yeah.
Yeah.
You don't, oh my god, you had, like, that's what you added? You condescending son of a... Okay, so
Daisy.
go now in peace.
Daisy.
And follow us on social media. Go watch these movies, because they're worth it. And this is Justin.
This is Aaron.
And yeah, talk to you later.
Thanks. Bye.